Welcome to part 7 of our lecture on tissue. No, it hasn't been that bad. Each of the lectures has been around 10 to 11 minutes long. So, in the last video, we looked at the different types of connective tissues. This is adipose connective tissues. It's characterized by these hollow-looking cells with a peripheral nuclei. So the nuclei would be like here and here. Here's another one, so there are the nuclei. Then we have these hollow-looking cells that allegedly have lipid droplets. I was gastified when I read online that this actually looks this way because the lipid is gone in the staining process. Now this is areolar connective tissue. We have fibroblasts, like there. And then we have two types of fibers. We have these thick collagen fibers that are unbranched fibers. Then we have thinner elastic fibers that are branching. And then in theory, you're going to have reticular fibers in here. I have heard mixed stories about whether or not with this stain you see them or not, but this really squiggly one may be a reticular fiber. I personally think it's just an elastic fiber that snapped. So blood is another connective tissue. This is not a great slide of blood, but we have space in here and between cells, and that's plasma, which is the fluid portion of blood. This is dense regular connective tissue. It has these collagen fibers that more or less have this regular wavy pattern, like so. And you have fibroblasts, usually sort of spread in a regular pattern too, but not always. Now, this one students confuse with a muscle called smooth muscle. I didn't teach you smooth muscle. It is not on the lab exam. It's not on the lecture exam. The muscle we looked at all has these striations. I guess I should draw that over here, of light dark. And I'll try to give this to you as a blue slide instead of a red slide as well. This is dense irregular connective tissue. Again, it has collagen fibers, but the fibers are going every which way. So I think it always looks like a Picasso. I've had students be smart Alex and write Picasso on lab exams. So the difference between this and dense regular is dense regular. It'll be in a regular pattern. You usually see the fibroblasts in dense regular. In this, that's probably a fibroblast. I don't see many fibroblasts. Well, and look, that's probably adipose right there. We also talked about mesenchyme. This is what mesenchyme looks like. So we have cells. These are mesenchymal cells in here. And then you have reticular fibers holding everything in place. And this, I believe, is our last one. This is reticular connective tissue. So you see these reticular fibers here. And usually the fibers have cells attached to them because you have this in lymph nodes and places where you have lots of fluid moving through. So for the rest of this video, we're going to look at aging and growth, and we are going to look at body membranes. So we are going to look at 4 changes in size and number of tissues. There's more than this. We are going to look at hypertrophy, hyperplasia, neoplasia, and atrophy. So this is a normal cell. This is hypertrophy. What happened to the cell? I think it got bigger, but it didn't increase in number. This is hyperplasia, or plasia. And, oh, look, instead of 4 cells, I have, I believe, 16 cells. That looks like it's getting more in number. Then neoplasia. Do those cells look normal? No. Then atrophy. Oh, look, they're smaller. So I'll ask you one of these on the test. So hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is the increase in size of existing cells. So cells do not increase in number. It increases in size. So here, this person's going to the gym. And when you go to the gym, you break the small micro units in the muscle. It repairs and gets bigger and bigger. That is the idea behind resistance training, is to strengthen muscle. Now, unfortunately, I have the other problem. I do 12-ounce curls. Beer is a very energy-dense food that has no nutritional value. I eat lots and lots of chocolate. Chocolate, it tastes great, but has lots of sugar. Yeah, my adipose tissue hypertrophies all the time. Hyperplasia is increasing in number. Now, this is normal in children. So here's the normal cell number. Oh, look, it doubled. It's normal development, embryological, or childhood. What I learned when I was teaching nutrition ages ago is that children apparently will increase in number of fat cells when they overeat and eat poorly, whereas adults will not increase the number of cells, the cells will just get bigger and bigger. So that's according to the nutrition textbook we used. Neoplasia is out of control growth, and there's actually different stages. So here, I believe this is supposed to be skin, by the way, you have an out of control growth, and it's getting bigger and bigger and invading other tissues. Then finally, atrophy is shrinkage due to not using something. And a lot of our cadavers have atrophied legs because they're usually in wheelchairs or in bed the last year of their life or 6 months of their life. So they're not really using those muscles. So, matching. Match the term with its definition. So, atrophy is shrinkage. So, that would be T. Hyperplasia and hypertrophy, which is number, which is size? Plasia is number, trophy size. So, and lastly, neoplasia and neoplasia, that would be C. So again, I'm asking you one of these on the test. We're going to look at body membranes. This is in a weird place because they're talked about in other chapters too, but I thought it's important to mention them. So, there's two classifications of membranes. There's epithelial membranes. So what does epithelial tissue do? It lines. So these must line things. The cutaneous membrane, that's your skin. It covers the body. The mucous membranes are around openings, like your eyes and your mouth and your urogenital opening and your anus. So it's around openings to the body, and we'll talk about those in the next slide. The serous membranes we talked about in chapter 1. Remember that I said your abdominal organs, there's a membrane that part of it's on the abdominal wall, part of it surrounds the internal organs, and there's fluid in between. And then we have our connective tissue membrane. Connective tissues, they connect. So this is around your joints. So mucous membranes. We'll talk about this when we get to the respiratory chapter and lymphatic chapter, but it's important to mention now. Any opening to the body has mucus-producing cells. So your nasal cavity is a mucous membrane because you have all these mucus-producing goblet cells. And it has a constant outflow. It's trying to get rid of pathogens. So you have a little bacteria trying to get in. It gets washed away, usually down into the stomach where it gets fried. So I mentioned this last chapter, I believe, or 2 chapters ago. The COVID-19 virus, influenza viruses, and rhinoviruses have grappling hooks that sort of resist this. So your nose, your mouth, your eyes, the urogenital opening, and the anus are all mucous membranes. They wash things away with mucus, and usually there's some sort of chemical defense. The respiratory tree and the nasal cavity, that washes things down to the stomach, which is acidic. The urogenital opening is acidic as well. The serous membranes were the ones that lined the abdominal organs and the thoracic organs. They have a parietal part that is around the outside, and then a visceral part that is around the organ. So if I drew a lung here, just flunked it drawing a lung, the visceral part would be right there, and then the parietal part would be there, and then this space would be filled with fluid. So that is the end of our tissue chapter. I'll ask you one of those membranes as well. And thank you very much. Have a good day.